Now at 10, stepping into history, Kathy Hochul has officially become New York's first female governor. Tonight, details on her top priorities for the state.
And across the Hudson, the cleanup is underway in New Jersey following Tropical Storm Henri. How Governor Phil Murphy is stepping in to help families with relief and funding.
And bracing for the heat, the tri-state could face the fifth heat wave of the season. The PIX11 News at 10 starts right now.
Live from 42nd and 2nd, this is New York's very own PIX11 News at 10.
And good evening to you. I'm Tamsin Fidel.
And I'm Craig Treadway in for Corey Chambers tonight. We're going to get to all of those stories in a moment, but first, we are following some breaking news in Brooklyn. Yeah, 20 people have reportedly gotten sick from food poisoning after an international flight. PIX11's Greg Mocker tonight live in Borough Park with the very latest for us. Greg, what's going on?
Hi, Tamsin and Craig. Around the time this happened, it's probably about a 40-minute ride from JFK to their Borough Park neighborhood. Friends and family and authorities are really still trying to piece together this timeline. We're now hearing it may be as many as 25 people who got sick and hospitalized, many of them teenagers, some here at Maimonides, other Brooklyn hospitals. We do have similar reports out in Muncie, up north Rockland County, which is about 47 miles. They had returned from an international flight. They went home to Borough Park on a bus. That's when they started feeling ill, experiencing symptoms that seemed to be food poisoning. They had been traveling to Europe. The flight home had originated in Ukraine. The FDNY was not involved. Hetzola transported the patients. The folks headed from that bus to that garage when they started feeling sick. We will stay on top of the story and bring you any developments live in Sunset Park. Greg Mocker, PIX11 News.
All right, Greg, thank you so much. Well, our other story tonight, if you stepped outside today, you most likely felt it. The heat wave is officially on.
Yeah, we are under a weather alert tonight as temperatures begin to soar, and Mr. G has details for us. G.
All right, this is number 5, fifth heat wave of the season. 89 degrees in the park, LaGuardia 92, 93 Newark, and the beat's going to go on for the next 24, 48, perhaps 72 hours. And that's why heat advisory is in effect right through Thursday until 8 o'clock for Bergen and Orange and Nassau County, Fairfield County. And you can see again all the way across Essex, Hudson, and also Union County. And with temperatures holding right now at 82 degrees, you're starting out with a platform temperature that's very high as you approach 11 o'clock at night. So tomorrow is going to be no feast around here in terms of temperatures. Almost oven-like would be the word. Basically dry air. You can see again the humidity is high, no clouds in the sky, basically rain-free. Radar with false echoes. So what you see is what you're going to get around here in terms of a compressed westerly breeze coming down the mountains, warming things up, and then the heat will be on. This is a Bermuda high, and once you get a Bermuda high in that spot, all right, you get winds clockwise around it. You get southwesterly winds that blow to the east side of the Appalachians, and that is definition of 3 days in a row of 90-degree temperatures. So for tomorrow, the index will get up to about 95 degrees. That's going to be in the afternoon between 2 and about 5 o'clock. Stay hydrated. Don't exercise. Check on the elderly, close to the AC, respiratory problems. Check in with your doctor. Be very, very careful in this heat. I see an end, and I'll tell you when that end will be. And we'll have that later on.
All right, G, thank you.
Well, just a few hours after officially becoming New York's new governor, Kathy Hochul already laid out her priorities for the state. Yeah,
and it comes as no surprise that fighting COVID-19 is at the top of that list. PIX11 Shirley Chance tonight live in front of the governor's office with more for us. Hi there, Shirley.
Hi, Tamsin and Craig, our new governor, the 57th in state history and the first female, hit the ground running, laying out her plan to tackle the state's most pressing issues.
I, Kathy Hochul, do solemnly swear.
And so begins the Kathy Hochul era as New York's governor. The 62-year-old Buffalo native is the first woman to ascend to the highest office in the state. She wasted no time. Her first directive, a statewide mask requirement in schools.
I want you to know you are heard. And I'm ready to get to work as your governor to solve the big problems that this state faces.
Those big problems? First, fighting COVID, and second, getting direct aid more quickly to New Yorkers from the rent relief program and excluded workers fund.
I want the money out now. I want it out with no more excuses and delays.
And third, changing the culture in Albany, scarred by accusations of sexual harassment and a toxic work environment during Andrew Cuomo's reign.
I'm directing an overhaul of state government policies on sexual harassment and ethics.
Although she has been in politics for over a decade, it's fair to say Hochul is little known downstate. She's trying to change that image.
You may not know me, but I know you. In my travels to all 62 counties every year.
Basil Smikle is a former executive director of the state Democratic Party and has traveled with her to many of those counties.
Downstate, she's got her work cut out for her, but because she's a pretty good retail politician, I think she can make up ground in a short period of time.
Cuomo's relationship with Mayor de Blasio was often fraught. Smikle says to move New York City's agenda forward, there needs to be a better partnership.
All of the outreach that Kathy Hochul should do in New York City would be to elected officials, community leaders. But the truth is, she really should start with the mayor of the city of New York.
In her first day in office, Hochul got right to work, meeting with legislative leaders to discuss the eviction moratorium that expires at the end of August. Also, one of her first key moves in the coming weeks will be deciding who replaces her as lieutenant governor. Hochul has said she will choose someone from the New York City area.
It is to her benefit to choose someone from a vote-rich area of the state. And she needs to choose someone, I believe, who represents the diversity of New York City.
Hochul wrapped up her speech today telling New Yorkers you'll find me direct, straight-talking, and decisive. She also says she wants the women of New York to be proud of her as the first female governor. We are live tonight outside the Midtown offices of Governor Kathy Hochul. I'm Shirley Chan, PIX11 News.
All right, Shirley, thank you so much. And be sure to stay with PIX11 for continuing coverage of Governor Hochul's historic appointment in New York State. You can also head over to PIX11.com for all of the details.
Well, during his final hours as New York Governor, Andrew Cuomo granted clemency to 6 more people. One person was 76-year-old David Gilbert. As a member of the Weather Underground, he was the driver in the fatal 1981 robbery of a Brinks armored truck. 2 police officers and a guard were killed. Gilbert was serving a life sentence for his role in the $1.6 million theft. But the governor's office said today that he will be referred to the state parole board for potential release. A New York assemblyman who grew up in Rockland County spoke out against the move.
Brinks robbery and the carnage that happened throughout that day and afterward left an indelible mark on the people of Rockland County that to this day is a stain on our county. Time doesn't wash away what this was. It was an orchestrated attack of domestic terrorism.
Well, on his last day in office, Cuomo also commuted the sentences of 4 other people and fully pardoned another.
Well, the Biden administration says it is not backing off from the August 31st deadline to get Americans out of Afghanistan.
Yeah, Pentagon spokesperson John Kirby says the State Department is reaching out to Americans who are still in the country.
To communicate to them, let them know what evacuation plans are possible.
We're seeing increased pace in the flight schedule at Kabul.
Now, with help of a global coalition, more than 21,000 people were evacuated from Kabul in 24 hours. Now, the Taliban opposes any extension to President Biden's deadline and says all foreign nationals must leave by the 31st. And lawmakers are worried. House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy says there should never be a time where the Taliban directs U.S. actions. Meanwhile, some Democrats say they have concerns, but they're still hopeful about how things will look on September 1st. And the Afghanistan crisis has impacts here in the tri-state. Just ahead, we're going to tell you the story of one New Jersey Marine veteran who's working to rescue his former translator, who is currently trapped in Afghanistan and hiding from the Taliban.
Well, House Democrats have passed legislation that would strengthen a landmark civil rights era voting law. The John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act is named after the late Georgia congressman who made voting rights a defining issue of his career. The legislation would restore protections that have been dismantled by the Supreme Court. Democratic leaders touted the legislation's passing today as progress, but the bill faces dim prospects in the Senate. There are not enough votes to overcome opposition from Republicans who have called the legislation unnecessary.
Well, tonight we're learning more about yesterday's shooting outside Penn Station that left an innocent bystander wounded and commuters running for cover. You see it there. The NYPD releasing surveillance footage of the suspect right before the shooting. Officials say he got into an argument with another man over food inside Penn Station. The confrontation spilled out onto the street, and that's when the gunman opened fire. He missed his intended target and instead hit a 58-year-old man in the leg. Thankfully, a police officer was nearby and able to rush to the victim's aid during all of that chaos.
At that point, I saw people running towards me and waving me down, saying that somebody had been shot. He was generally calm. He didn't know he'd been shot. And at that point, he was just in mild pain. I applied the tourniquet and I placed QuikClot inside of the wound and waited for EMS to transport him.
Well, the victim was rushed to Bellevue Hospital and is expected to be okay. If you have any information on this case, please call police.
Well, in New Jersey, Governor Murphy is signing a bill that increases penalties for hazing. It is named after a Penn State student from Reddington Township who died in 2017. Timothy Piazza's law requires schools, colleges, and universities to have anti-hazing policies with punishments. It also increases penalties for hazing, including raising prison sentences from a maximum of 18 months to a maximum of 5 years. Piazza died after getting drunk and falling several times in February 2017 while rushing for a fraternity at Penn State. And still to come tonight, picking up the pieces after that storm, we're going to talk about a new push to help families in New Jersey rebuild after really a devastating weekend.
Plus, the fifth day of the R. Kelly trial. We'll have details on what another accuser said today in court and what's ahead for the singer.
And a major investment in a new community center in Staten Island that will help the community battle this hot weather. We're back in 90 seconds.
You're watching the PIX11 News at 10 with Tamsin Fidel, Corey Chambers, Mr. G with your weather, and Andy Adler with sports. We're New York's very own. This is breaking news from PIX11.
And that breaking news that we are following at this hour out of Dyker Heights of Brooklyn. Police telling us a 6-year-old little girl was hit by a vehicle right around 9 o'clock this evening, just over an hour ago. She was pronounced dead on arrival at the hospital. Citizen video here showing the scene unfolding at 12th Avenue and 67th Street. We are told tonight the driver did remain on the scene there. Of course, we will keep you updated as we learn any new details on this tragic story.
Well, the second accuser returned to the stand today for the fifth day of the R. Kelly trial.
Yeah, the woman testified the 54-year-old singer made her lie during that infamous Gayle King interview. She went on to say he forced her to have sex with another man while he recorded the encounter. The accuser, one of 2 women who lived with Kelly in Chicago up until 2019.
Kelly's accused of racketeering, bribery, and sexual abuse. He faces up to 20 years in prison if convicted. He also faces sex crimes charges in Illinois and in Minnesota. And tonight, residents in Helmetta, New Jersey are rebuilding and cleaning up after Henri unleashed devastation there.
Yeah, sure are. That damage really widespread, from flooded homes to personal belongings forever destroyed. Governor Murphy touring that damage today. PIX11 Shay Dow is live with recovery efforts underway tonight. Hi there, Jay.
Hi, Tamsin. So the power is still out to so many of these homes. You can hear the generators humming. As you said, these homeowners embarking on a rebuilding process that sadly they are all too familiar with. Her home is missing its flooring, 4 feet of sheetrock, working electrical outlets, and a host of personal belongings, all destroyed by floodwater from Henry's weekend visit. But if there was a dictionary entry for the term making the best of a bad situation,
it's stuff. I can replace it all.
Next to it, you'd find Darcy Hall's photo. She is one of some 70 families in the quaint hamlet of Helmetta, a small borough in Middlesex County, New Jersey, now displaced from this weekend's flooding, compliments of the rainstorm. The widespread hope that Governor Phil Murphy's Tuesday evening visit will ultimately trigger the release of much-needed state-issued emergency financial relief.
We had 17 or 27 inches of water in the house. The water line, you can see it on the door here.
We will do whatever we can. We're getting storms more frequently. They're more intense. This one was a big rainstorm. Thank God, not a big windstorm, but a big rainstorm means a lot of flooding and people out of their homes. So we got to update the playbook.
At the local community center, Governor Murphy met dozens of other residents who have sadly been through this before.
I lost my furnace, I lost my hot water heater. There's a whole bunch of insulation hanging from my crawl space. We don't have any electricity and any gas.
In fact, many residents say this is the fourth flooding in 20 years for tiny Helmetta, a community surrounded by a network of streams and ponds.
We've become like a retention pond from the matrix of the waterways, and at no fault to anybody. Also nearly 9 inches of rain fell in a very short amount of time, which is a contributing factor, but this keeps happening.
Is the repeat flooding discouraging? Absolutely. But Darcy Hall says her next move involves staying put and rebuilding.
I would love to get my house raised because I love my house. I love the neighborhood. I love the people.
This is a great street, you can tell.
I spoke with a spokesperson for the governor who told me that a FEMA liaison was on scene this evening and discussions are underway to try to figure out how to get additional aid to this and other flood affected communities. We're live in Helmetta, New Jersey tonight. Jay Dow, PIX11 News.
All right, Jay, thank you so much. Well, more than $50 million has been earmarked for a new community center on Staten Island.
Yeah, Mayor de Blasio making the announcement today. It was during a press conference at Goodhue Community Center. Now, he says $52.9 million will go to the Children's Aid Society.
And the group's going to build a new community center, which will enclose the outdoor swimming pool in the grounds of Goodhue to make it an indoor pool.
This is one of those moments where we make things better for people by investing in families, investing in children, investing in the community. That's what Staten Island Week is all about. That's why we're doing City Hall in your borough, to fix things that need to be fixed, to right some wrongs, to bring some investment to a borough that often hasn't gotten its fair share.
City funding will also complete the acquisition of another 11 acres of that property to be forever preserved.
Yeah, no jackets required at that press conference, and that pool looked pretty good, G.
Yeah, you got that right. And moving forward, more of the same for the next couple of days. Do want to know the flood warning is still in effect for the Passaic River. Moderate flooding ongoing, and this is going to subside very slowly. You got to wait through Friday for this to end. 82 degrees, the heat index 83 as you approach 11 o'clock. That's a big number this time of year, and the winds are calm. So the future index, as we move along, you'll be able to see what it's going to look like. This is 11 o'clock. Now in the early morning hours, it'll feel like 76 degrees, but in the afternoon it pops and rocks. Between 2 and 5 o'clock, it's going to feel like 94, 95 degrees, and then 85 degrees tomorrow night, and one more tough day coming up, and that's going to be on Thursday. Relief comes, and it will come Friday late afternoon, Friday night. A stripe of moisture right there, and all the guidance is suggesting here, it's the same way the computers do tropical storms, hurricanes. They do temperatures, they do fronts, they do movement, and this looks like a Friday night event because we have to wait for this Bermuda high to weaken a little bit to allow that frontal system come on by. Until then, the heat is on. The flow of air clockwise, the southwesterlies bringing the east side of the Appalachians, and once it comes, it sticks and it stays, and we're not the only one. 35 million people are under this heat in terms of the Ohio Valley, all the way down to portions of Missouri, getting into Arkansas, Louisiana, the western portions of Alabama, upstate New York, the 5 boroughs. And look at these numbers. It says it all. Cruise on the control, just hitting that space bar, and we're going from number to number until Friday. The leading edge of the front will approach on Friday. You can see the moisture level beginning to increase. The water temperature will be very warm at the beaches. So if you can get to the beach the next couple of days, man, that's a great thing. All right, the air temperature, even your feet are going to be hot on that sand. Water temperature 76. Ocean, sound, quiet, UV index very high at 8. It's a heat wave. Fifth one, 91, 91, and 90, but relief over the weekend, 7-day. Let's chat about the good news later on.
Looking forward to that.
Oh, yeah.
One, wow. All right, coming up tonight, the crisis in Afghanistan impacting the tri-state area. We're going to introduce you to one veteran from New Jersey who's trying to bring someone who's trapped in Afghanistan home.
And saying goodbye to a rock and roll legend. A founding member of the Rolling Stones has passed away tonight. We're taking a look at his legacy. We are back after this.
All right, there's a live look at the Mary Cuomo Bridge era lit in purple and gold, all in honor of Women's Equality Day, a move announced by the first woman governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, following her inauguration. The bridge is just one of 13 landmarks out there lit up to celebrate women's equality in New York.
And others include the World Trade Center, Niagara Falls, and Grand Central Terminal. It will be lit through Thursday. And as the dire situation in Afghanistan continues, a U.S. Marine veteran in New Jersey is trying to do everything in his power to bring his Afghan translator safely home to the U.S.
Yeah, but he is facing a lot of difficulty as thousands of special immigrant visas are backlogged right now. PIX11's Michelle Ross spoke with the veteran and has more on his efforts tonight.
Corporal Caleb Taylor first met his Afghan interpreter in 2011. We've blurred his face to protect his identity and will anonymously refer to him as NB.
NB, as soon as he became an interpreter, he knew full well that he had to worry about the safety of his family, not just for, the immediate term while he's working, but for perpetuity.
As the Taliban takes control of Afghanistan, 30-year-old NB is in hiding with his 24-year-old wife and 8-month-old child. It's the only choice he has since his extended family has already been targeted.
His brother-in-law and his sister were both kidnapped by the Taliban, and then the sister was let go, but the brother-in-law was murdered. And they were never able to recover the body.
The U.S. Marine veteran has been working diligently for the last year and a half to get NB's SIV, which stands for Special Immigrant Visa. But the approval has never been more urgent than it is now, as we approach the August 31st deadline to withdraw U.S. troops.
It's terrifying. I'm doing everything I can on my end, and I'm pushing as much information as I can and putting him on as many lists as I can, and following up about his visa and, doing everything I can on my end, but there's ultimately nothing that I can do.
The SIV program was created to protect foreign allies who risk their lives helping U.S. troops, but it's been backlogged with tens of thousands of applicants since 2009. NB was most recently working as an engineer, his wife a doctor, but they know a future in Afghanistan, especially with their infant, is no future at all under the Taliban.
NB is an incredible being. He's a phenomenal man, and we're lucky to have worked with him. He gave us everything he had the entire time we were there at great personal risk. It was a very dangerous area of operations, and he never complained. He always went out on patrol with us, and because of him, we were very effective and I think very successful.
And Taylor is calling on everyone he knows to put more pressure on their local representatives, to put more resources into the SIV program to effectively bring more people home from Afghanistan. In Manhattan, Michelle Ross, PIX11 News.
All right, growing confusion over New York City school reopening plans.
Yeah, coming up, we're getting some clarity about remote learning options specifically for immunocompromised students.
Plus, another major company announcing a new COVID vaccine mandate for its employees. We'll tell you when they'll need to get their shots.
And it won't even be open until 2023, but the new Performing Arts Center in New York has already held its first concert for a very special reason. We'll explain.
You're watching the PIX11 News at 10.
Well, city leaders have emphasized kids should be back in school for their emotional, social, and academic well-being. But now with 20 days left until the start of the school year, parents say many details remain unclear. Well, thank you for staying with us. I'm Craig Treadway, sitting in for Corey Chambers tonight.
And I'm Tamsin Fidel. Well, tonight we explore what parents should know before sending their kids back to school. PIX11's Calorama working to get some answers, pressing the mayor on remote learning for immunocompromised students. Take a look.
Play area where the children play.
For parents like LaToya Coleman with medically fragile children, the Delta variant adds to her unimaginable worry.
I don't think there's another option. So if me, as being a strong parent leader myself and a parent of my 2 children and other children, there should be a remote option because, I'm scared, frightened.
2 out of LaToya's 6 kids in New York City schools are immunocompromised. She talked to me today from her 17-year-old Antoine's hospital room while he's being treated for a tumor in his pelvis. Her 5-year-old Ozaya has chronic asthma. Today we learned parents can opt for a licensed teacher to visit an immunocompromised child's home, but there will be no online learning option.
We want parents of those kids to understand help will definitely be there for them.
The Department of Education confirms to us in this statement, our home instruction program, which benefits a small number of children who are medically unable to attend school, will continue as it did pre-pandemic, and we will work with families to tailor the instruction based on their medical needs of each child. But LaToya is looking for details.
I mean, it makes me feel upset because what small number are you considering for homeschooling?
And more confusion. Just 4 days ago, the mayor said student quarantines would reduce from 10 to 7 days.
Among those who do go home for quarantine, it's now 7 days.
Today, he's back to 10, with no clarity on what at-home instruction during quarantine for these students will look like.
Quarantine situation's 10 days, and obviously it's 10 days continuous, so it includes weekends. Not all of those are school days. We're working through, we certainly have a lot of instructional materials that we can make available instantly anytime a child needs to quarantine. We're working through exactly what that's going to be.
The city is also saying there will be testing, but no details on who will be tested and how often.
A range of options, including both in-school testing, as we had throughout the last school year, as well as providing some at-home testing kits.
As for maintaining 3 feet social distancing in schools,
we can and will achieve the CDC guidance, the state education department guidance on distancing.
But no details on what overcrowded schools will look like, as principals are sending letters home worried mixed grades will be taught in the cafeteria to welcome back all students. The mayor putting the focus on the vaccine mandate, saying we will have the safest school system in the country. Every adult inside a school building, including safety agents, will need to have their first dose by September 27th, which in theory has all school staff fully vaccinated by November 8th. Kalorama, PIX11 News.
Well, tonight, health officials across New York are hoping the FDA's approval of the Pfizer vaccine could reduce hesitancy and encourage more New Yorkers to go get vaccinated. In fact, we spoke with a Lenox Hill Hospital family physician, and he says a lot of his patients have been waiting for this approval, which he calls the safest and strongest way to prevent contracting the virus.
We already knew that the vaccine was very safe, and there was a ton of research that went into the vaccine development. The public can now have that additional boost of confidence, knowing that it's been checked rigorously.
Mayor de Blasio saying tonight he expects that number to increase as more people receive the Pfizer shot. So far, the city's administered 10.5 million doses of the vaccine. And federal regulators are reviewing Moderna's application now for full FDA approval. Johnson & Johnson has not yet applied.
Well, nearly 70% of the MTA workforce has been vaccinated. That's according to the Transportation Agency. Earlier this month, former Governor Andrew Cuomo announced MTA employees must be vaccinated by Labor Day. And those who refuse will have to be tested for COVID weekly. All right,
let's talk about this tonight. Tonight, the tri-state could be facing yet another heat wave.
That's right. For the third time this summer, the temperatures could be hitting the 90s for 3 days in a row. Mr. G.
All right, we're going to work on the temperatures, Craig. And the big story right now is the temperature late at night at 82 degrees in the upper 70s north and west from Cold Spring to Glassboro in that area. The leading edge of a cold front is up to the north. Mentioning that because it will come on through here. But until then, the high is in place. The southwest in place and the temps are in place. And my man Cruz just put out this graphic. We use it just to show you the consistency of this forecast for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday in New York. Look at Flatbush in Brooklyn. You had 9-10 inches of rain. Now you get a heat wave on top of that. Come on, man. And Newark, temperatures in mid to upper 90s 3 days in a row. That's a qualifier for a heat wave. Now, after the heat breaks, which is Friday afternoon, what happens to the temps and the sky conditions over the weekend? We'll chat about that later on.
All right, G, thank you. Well, a pair of talented musicians held a very first performance at the Perlman Performing Arts Center at the World Trade Center.
And what makes it even more special, the center won't be open for another year. Check it out. Earlier this summer, violinist Gregory Harrington and cellist Eleanor Norton treated construction workers to a rendition of U2's With or Without You during their lunch.
Crews are currently installing mechanical stages, massive steel doors, and hanging the marble facade there. Construction expected to be complete next year at some point, and the PAC is slated to open sometime in 2023.
All right, still to come tonight. Can you imagine receiving your groceries on a self-driving vehicle or a drone? I'll tell you one major retailer that wants to make that a reality very soon.
And another sign of recovery coming up, how home sales in the U.S. could indicate that the economy is rebounding when we come back. All right, time now for your Strictly Business Report. Starting off with a look at Wall Street. Here is how the markets wrapped up today. Stocks ending the day higher. The Dow up 30 points. Well, after 3 months on the decline, the U.S. housing market is starting to pick back up. The sale of new single-family homes went up in July by 1% to 708,000 units last month. The market for new homes is being driven by a shortage of previously owned houses. However, builders are struggling right now to take advantage of the supply squeeze due to the soaring lumber prices, as well as a lack of building materials and also household appliances on the market. Another COVID vaccine mandate to tell you about tonight. This one's coming from UPS, the company announcing that in certain U.S. locations, employees who have been working remotely will be required to be vaccinated by the time they go back to the office. The decision comes after the FDA granted full approval to Pfizer's COVID vaccine on Monday. Let's talk about Walmart, because they're launching a new service offering local delivery for national brands and small business owners out there. It's being called Go Local. The company says it's going to offer competitively priced shipping within 2 hours, as well as a 2-day delivery option. The delivery fleet is also expected to have self-driving vehicles and drones. Go Local is set to begin shipping by the end of the year. And that is a look at tonight's Strictly Business Report for you. Greg?
Well, Tams, and tonight the music world is mourning the loss of rock legend Charlie Watts. The Rolling Stones drummer passed away at 80 years old. Well, his publicist says he died peacefully in a London hospital surrounded by his family. And the news comes weeks after it was announced he would miss the band's U.S. tour dates to recover from a medical procedure. Watts was a founding member of the Rolling Stones in 1963. All right, well, opening a small business in March of 2020, that's what we call bad timing.
Yeah, right. Well, the owners of a brewery in Jersey City learned that the hard way, but they've managed to stay open. We're going to tell you their story when we come back tonight.
And coming up in sports, looks like it's going to be another good night for the Yankees and another tough one for the Mets. Let's talk about it. Plus, Jets making some moves. We're going to break that all down because sports is next.
Well, each week, PIX11 has been spotlighting small businesses that need a helping hand as they navigate this new normal.
This week we pay a visit to a New Jersey brewing company that was down on their luck but high on optimism. Andrew Ramos has a story from Jersey City.
March 15th, we got approved to operate, and then March 17th, everything shut down.
Talk about bad timing. After a year of planning their big move to a new space from Hoboken to Jersey City, 902 Brewing Company hit a roadblock in the form of a statewide shutdown. At the helm of the brewery are Don Vogt and Kobe Janish, who started the company a decade ago inside their Hoboken apartment. When they saw an opportunity to expand the brewery, which specializes in local pale ales and IPAs, to a large warehouse along Pacific Avenue, it was a no-brainer. But it was also a rough start.
Are we doing the right thing? Should we just shut down shop? Is someone telling us not to do this? But if it doesn't knock you out, it makes you stronger.
When restrictions on indoor capacity started to loosen up, in addition to the return of bar service, things picked up. Their 6,400 square foot hangout with a lavish rooftop no longer collecting dust.
Finally seeing people not afraid for their lives and sitting down and relaxing and conversing and stuff, it was like this was the goal.
Despite COVID cases rising across the Garden State, the outlook for the Brewing Bros is optimistic. They say they're ready to switch gears if need be.
We lost at least 50 to 75% of our revenue during COVID that we expected to have. So
we hope we don't go back there, but at least we kind of have an idea what the dark ages look like.
902 Brewing Company here in Jersey City is open every day with plenty of outdoor and indoor seating. To get more information on this business and others now open, head over to our website, PIX11.com. In Jersey City, I'm Andrew Ramos, PIX11 News.
All All right, let's get one more check of what's going on out there for this week. Hi, G.
All right, guys, AC, click it on and keep it on because you're going to need it. Unfortunately, utility bills climb with this kind of heat. 82 degrees, 76 degrees, an ice slip. And we're making a note of the dangerous heat because Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, very little in the way of relief. This is the heat indices, and you can see, again, Thursday looks like the toughest, but what the heck? I mean, 96, 9, and 97. I mean, it just keeps on going. You can see the southwesterly flow of air. That's the reinforcer. That's the reason why we feel so confident in this. And all the modeling suggests that everything's in place for a good old-fashioned Bermuda high to take charge. Now, the warmest day of all, probably on Thursday, a surge from the south and west will lead the leading edge of the cold front. And once the front crosses, will cool down. And that will be progressive into Friday and certainly Saturday, and amazingly so on Sunday, as the jet doesn't move in our direction. So everybody's in the 90s east of the Mississippi. The jet begins to make a move on Saturday and then a pronounced move on Sunday to cool weather. Excuse me. Curacao, there is your development. In 5 days, it looks like it's destined again for the Yucatan. This one is 70% chance of development, and that looks like it's for the fish. And let's cheer on semifinalists now. The Northwell Choir, America Got Talent. This could be their year. Everybody has attached themselves to this nurse choir group, which is serving such a need in this country to fill with positiveness and good stuff. 91, 91, 91, 3 days in a row, and over the weekend we'll cool it down, not dramatically, but enough to feel more comfortable.
All right, G, thank you. I'm so excited for them.
Yeah, all right, time now for sports. Let's send it over to Andy.
All right, guys, tonight the Yankees play the Braves. And look, at this point, these games are like a test because beating an average team, that's fine. But beating one of the hottest teams in baseball, well, that's just priceless. It was Yankees taking on the Braves. Yankees going for 11 straight. Okay, so Yankees come up early here. Second inning, Giancarlo Stanton goes deep to left. You know, Aaron Boone, lately, he's calling him the unicorn, and you could see why. Braves still up 2-1. As for Gary Sanchez, lately, he just looks good. The RBI single ties the game at 2 in the fourth. Fifth inning, DJ LeMahieu unties it. 2-run blast. Yankees grab a 4-2 lead. And when Atlanta decided to go ahead and cut that to 1, well, Odor said, I don't think so. It's a solo shot, 5-3 Yankees. And that's the score right now in the ninth. You know, if they win this, this is going to be good for both New York teams. A loss for the Braves may just help the Mets. But you see, the Mets, if they have any chance of getting back in the race, they need to actually win games themselves. You know, the Giants, they're a good team, but there really is no excuse for what we saw tonight. Tyler McGill, he got the start, and he just didn't have it today, struggling in every way. Second inning, Mike Yastrzemski crushes that pitch. It's a 2-run home run. I think his dad would be proud, and so would his grandfather, Carl. 3-1 Giants, fourth inning. Giants add to the lead. Lamont Wade Jr. going to deep center. It's another 2-run home run. Giants up 5-0. Still in the fourth, Brandon Belt smacks a solo home run. That's his second of the night. McGill allowed 4 home runs tonight, and the Giants blank the Mets 8-0. The Mets, they've been shut out for the 11th time this season. It is brutal to watch this. And today, I ran into a Mets fan, and he actually says that he just enjoys watching the Little League World Series. You know, it's before the egos. It's before the paychecks. It's just about good baseball. Tom's River over in Texas this afternoon. Look who it is. Former Met, former Yankee, Todd Frazier on hand to root on his nephew Carson and the rest of the Tom's River team. They trailed 2-0 in the fifth, and check that out. It's a wild pitch. The runner rounds third, then goes back, then decides to come home. Tom Rivers cuts the lead to 2-1. Interesting play there. But you know what? Things got pretty close. Texas goes on to win it, however, 2-1. They're going to face Nebraska tomorrow. Tom's River finishes a 1-2 record. Nice try, guys. And coming up next, we're going to check in on the Jets. The Jets have more injury news. We'll tell you about that right after the break. Jets and Eagles with some joint practices this week and more injury news to tell you about. Beckham, he's going to be checked out for a concussion after a head-to-toe collision. He was just feeling woozy and he had to walk off. But the Jets did get wide receiver Elijah Moore back on the practice field. He missed 2 weeks dealing with a quad injury, but he says that he actually feels like he didn't really miss any time because he took mental reps.
It was like I was really out there, so I really didn't feel like I was gone. You know, it just mental reps are just as important as being out there. Even when I was in Green Bay, man, I was just learning so much. So I look at everything as a positive, and it definitely was.
It's a good way to look at it. Both the Jets and Giants made some cuts today to get their roster down to 80. And next week's NFL rosters will have to be cut down to 53.
This is breaking news from PIX11.
All right, let's get back to one of our breaking news stories tonight. A 6-year-old little girl hit and killed by a vehicle in Brooklyn.
Yeah, Greg Mocker is just on the scene in Dyker Heights. Greg, what do we know?
This is some of the equipment that you see. These are the officers on the scene whenever there is a fatal crash. The evidence markers are out. They are charting everything, and the details are tragic. This is the spot where a 6-year-old girl was killed. You can see the collision investigation squad back there standing near that SUV. I understand that is the vehicle that was involved. The driver, I'm told, was probably making a turn here onto 67th Street from 12th Avenue in Dyker Heights, stayed on the scene. I talked to some of the neighbors. Linda lives over here to the right, and she said she was inside watching TV and she heard the scream. She thought it was maybe something on the TV, came and looked out her window and saw the mom and the little girl here in the road. We'll keep getting developments and have a report for you on the PIX11 morning news. For now, live in Dyker Heights, Greg Mocker, PIX11 News.
All right, Greg, thank you so much.
Tragic story there. All right, one last weather with Mr. G.
It's all about the Thames. That's what this story is. It's a tale of the Thames, southwesterly winds, heat wave, and the heat wave once again will be in charge around here. So at 7 a.m. in the morning, 74 degrees and haze and heat and humidity, and air quality won't be great either. In the suburbs, 62 to 71. Now we're looking at the maps carefully, and all the guidance is suggesting we're going to get a break around here, and that's going to be Thursday night into Friday. So hang in there, stay safe. Close to the AC. Again, drink a lot of water, hydrated. You know the safety rules. Let's break it down. 91 degrees. That'll be the story on Wednesday. Mixed sun and clouds. A thunderstorm is possible on Thursday. Later on in the afternoon, that's the cold front. Friday, another warm day, but progressively lower humidity. Then on Saturday, mixed sun and clouds, 81 degrees. That's cool. And Sunday, there could be a stray shower about. Monday, a couple of scattered showers about. But again, temperatures are going to be in the 80s. Fifth time we've hit 90 degrees. Tomorrow will be the 15th day of 90-degree temperatures. Thursday and Friday makes it 17. Your weatherman can count.
All right. Gee, thank you so much.
All right, and thank you for joining us for the PIX11 News at 10. I'm Craig Treadway.
And I'm Tamsin Fidel. Seinfeld is coming up next for you tonight. Have a good night.